And we also learned about money from Alexandra, and that was amazing as well. I just want to make note that, again, those of you who used the word of the day today, that was incredible because I still can't even say the word out loud.
It was Bavarian.
Our timer, I believe it was your first time being the timer, is that correct?
It's my last time, but not my first.
I think you did a really great job in flipping the cards. We didn't have any banners that fell during the meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over back.
Functionary Reports.
Functionary Reports. All right, so first we have up, I can't even read this thing. What happened?
You'd almost think so.
Yeah. It says, read top down.
The functionaries are listed on the bottom still.
Oh, the functionaries at the bottom.
Is it Wizard of Oz? Oh, okay. Got it. All right. I don't speak Harry Potter. Wizard of Oz is my cues.
Let's see. I counted a couple ahs from Bud. Erika, you had 3 ums and 2 ahs. And Ernst had a perfect run.
Hey! What about the speakers?
I would next like to get our report from our grammarian, Julia.
Yay!
Evaluator master. You know, the word of the day was not used very much. I'm not sure why. The word witticism means to joke. We only had a couple people like Bud who used the word of the day. Jennifer, you know, quietly used the word of the day. You still have an opportunity. The word is witticism. It means to joke or humor. Used as a noun, used in a sentence, the witticism in the room, due to the backwards meaning, was a perfect April Fool's activity. The amount of language used today was amazing. We heard some beautiful, colorful descriptions by Suzanna. So many that I can't even say all the things that you spoke about. It was perfect. And Ernst, well done. Although it was quietly well done. Can't wait to be the grammarian next time. Evaluator master.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to hear from our wonderful last-time timer, Diane Manikowski.
Good morning, Master Fool and fellow April Fools. In my effort to maintain my position as the April Fool timer, I'd like to interject a lot of codswallop into my report. So, click, 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 click. Jody. You were very, very busy bloviating today, and you held us all up. You were 10 minutes in counting. Well, I lost count. Alexandra, I'm sorry, I fell asleep during your holding up that card, I'm sorry. That long is really not good for my arthritis and back.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess after the last part being the functionaries, my portion of the meeting evaluation is complete.
No, you have to evaluators.
I had the toughest job. I didn't know that when I signed up for this. Next, we have evaluating Ernst.
Evaluating Suzanna.
Evaluating Suzanna. Oh my goodness.
Susanna's evaluating.
And this is bad. I had the taste of Lake Mary last night. Somebody had to finish the keg. Evaluating Suzanna. Let's welcome Ernst.
Evaluator.
That's right.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially Susan, and I was also part of finishing the keg with, actually I did a wine.
Cask.
The witticism of this meeting freaks me out because in Germany, I'm German, everything is a straight line. What the hell is going on? But Susan, the subject of your speech was, for the lesson was let your body do the speaking. let me just say you did an outstanding job. You started out, if I may, why don't you next time move the podium a little bit over here and come within this area. I know you spoke about exercise and you showed us exactly how this is supposed to be done, and it was very helpful for Stephanie. She took all kinds of notes. Stephen, and Bud is still writing. I hope you're not trying all the different ways of getting your body moving like Suzanne suggested. Otherwise you won't be able to come back next year. You spoke fluently. You did an incredible job. What did I just say? I'm just kidding. Anyways, you did an outstanding job and did a great presentation, and great job. Next one.
Criticism this morning. He's definitely added to the spirit of April Fool's Day. Next, evaluating Alexandria. Is it Alexandria? Alexandra is Alex. Who is her? Bud.
Honored guest, fellow Toastmasters, General Evaluator. Following Ernst is like trying to keep up with the Amtrak train from Washington, D.C. to Orlando on a handcar. It's not easy. Wow, what a speech! Alexandria. Alexandria. I have never heard one like it in my entire life. To begin with, your ending was superb. Your beginning was even better. In fact, your entire speech seemed to follow most of the requirements of the rigid organization demanded by the vocal variety, Project 6, and the competent communicators. Your beginning included a brief summary of what you would speak about, and your ending ignored everything you had previously said. In fact, your final summary wisely but briefly mentioned none of the points you had made during your entire presentation. Quite a witticism. Your entire speech was tied together in a knot which would be very difficult to unravel. One of the strongest parts of your speech was when you recited the complete text of President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address entirely backwards, which drew much astonishment and a standing applause from nearly everyone. I've never heard Lincoln's famous speech delivered in quite that way, and I assure you that it brought tears to my eyes. It's always a challenge to discover any area of possible improvement in any of your speeches, Alexandra, because they are so good. But I have calmly deliberated in a soul-searching method, trying to come up with something, even a small, tiny way in which your speech could have been better. The only minor point I could discover in your otherwise incredibly sensational speech is that you could perhaps have delivered it facing the audience instead of constantly looking out the window at the passing bicycles. In fact, Alexandra, take it from me, if you could just deliver that speech without continuously waving at your friends on the bike path, it might have been just a little better. A small tip about the handling of your notes might also help next time. It would be much easier to handle your note cards if you had not stapled them together at all four corners. I found that it's difficult enough to separate them when they're stapled at only 2 or 3 of the corners.
That's the red.
And what a great speech you did today.
right? I would next like to introduce our evaluator, Jorge Friggles, evaluating Jody Swain.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Good evening. Honored guests, and especially Jody. If following Ernst isn't bad enough, following Ernst and Bud together is an impossible task. Jody, today you spoke from Project 3 of the Company Communicator Manual. The project is Get to the Point. With this format, as always, you spoke very eloquently. You drew everybody in. You had a very engaging speech. I know we spoke earlier that you were going to be very spontaneous. And you were, and part of the requirements for the speech is to not use any notes, and because you were being spontaneous, you did very well not doing any notes. I don't think a lot of people really caught on to what was going on because half of your speech was in another language. You threw witticismingly all sorts of other accents in there, so it was very hard for me to evaluate a speech that I didn't understand half of. But overall, I think you did a very good job following all the criteria here. I believe you did. And I'm looking forward, obviously, to your next one.
Next, I'd like to thank Stephanie Bonnie Bird for her.
Oh, I'm up next.
Okay, I'm just going to thank her because she just finished. How about that? Thank you. Great job, Stephanie.
Now for the educational part of the meeting, where we're going to learn how well we did with our speaking. Please welcome our general evaluator, Erika. Yay! And the last prank I have to tell you for this day is the one that comes from today. Google's idea that they decided to announce that dozens of wild Pokemon have taken up residence on streets, amidst forts, and atop mountaintops through Google Maps. And they announced that they're looking for a software engineer and advanced Pokemon trainer to actually help them find and catch them all. So they put up a YouTube video saying they're looking for the world's best Pokemon master to officially join the company, and they've prepared the most rigorous test known to man to find the right person. During the not-so-real job, you'll have to explore all the types of terrain on your phone with Google Maps and find all the wild Pokemon hiding around the world, in the sky, in cities, fields, and even underwater. So even the big companies can have a sense of humor. So I hope you had a great sense of humor going through this set of table topics, because I know Stephanie worked very hard to make sure that it would come out well. Thank you, Stephanie.
With the utmost witticism, I will do my best to stay in the spirit of this wonderful celebration of all the fools. For the benefit of Jennifer, normally table topics is done where I ask a question, a statement, and solicit or elicit a response from someone. But that's not going to be the way we do it today. Since it was your idea, Stephen Morgan.
Stephanie a topic.
Dramatize the upcoming statement, Stephen Morgan.
Dramatize?
No, not that. I can't do that. That'd be too much drama. And this is not the day for drama. This is the day for the food. And if you want to think about what's something to be dramatizing about, I think it's when people kind of get a bit overboard. Probably the best one would think about when the invasion of Mars was broadcast on as a radio program back in the 30s. And a bunch of people across the country actually believed, yes, it was really happening and calling in because they had no other way of knowing. Most of them were not in the big cities to tell that they could just look out the window and go, oh no, it's not. But nonetheless, great prank played that day, which was actually on Halloween, if I recall, was a very entertaining one for everyone. That was when something silly was taken to a very overdramatic approach. Perhaps a little bit more so than what we're doing today, but this is a lot more fun. Now, thank you.
The question is, how do you act when something is out of the ordinary? But don't turn your head that way. I still see you.
I didn't get a question.
Describe for us.
Describe what? We heard a noise in the kitchen last night. No, this actually happened about 50 years ago. We heard a noise in the kitchen, and it sounded like a mouse. So I got the trap out and from the garage, and I asked the kids, who were small at that point, find me a piece of cheese so I can bait the trap. Well, they looked all over, and my youngest one, who was only 3 or 4, said, I can't find cheese, but he says, I've got a picture of a piece of cheese. I said, perfect. So I took a piece of Scotch tape, taped it to the trap, set it, put it under the kitchen cabinet, and we all went to bed. It was pretty late. Okay. Then, right, 20 minutes later, smack! We heard the trap trip. Everybody ran out in the kitchen. All 6 kids, my wife and I, were still in our pajamas. We're out there standing around. They waited while I opened the door, and I pulled out the trap, which of course had been sprung. And what do you think was in the trap?
Paper mouse.
One of the children.
A picture of a mouse.
A picture of a mouse, exactly.
Thank you, Bud, for telling us what you did that night you heard that eerie noise.
How did you know? He told me.
Who wants to play?
You have to dream something up instantly.
It's funny because, Jorge,
I don't usually watch Saturday Night Live, but I actually found a couple clips yesterday when I was trying to avoid working on a Monday morning. I started watching clips from this Saturday Night Live, and one of the commercials that was, or one of the skits that was funniest to me was the one about all of Joseph A. Banks. I don't know if anybody saw it, but Joseph A. Banks always does these ridiculous commercials where it's buy one, get 18 free or whatever, and they're saying that they're so cheap that you can pretty much use them as household products, as paper towels, because buying these suits was akin to buying just paper towels. So it showed a family that would just have a box full of suits, and every time a mess would come up, they'd take a suit jacket and would clean up the suit, clean up the mess, and they could just throw it in the fire and burn it. And the dad would think sometimes the suits would get messed up with the father's suits, and he'd come with clothes all over, food all over his suit. And I thought that was really funny because I always see those commercials and I always think sometimes how ridiculous those offers are sometimes, and it's funny that they made a skit out of it.
Thank you for telling us what you found funny enough not to work. Everything and anything, right? Should we? We're doing one more, should I? One more. Let's see. This is going to be an important one. Suzanna, sing it, baby.
I get asked this all the time because I am known worldwide, internationally, for my rendition of I'm a Little Teapot. I'm going to perform this for you today with no charge. No charge, because you're my friends. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my other handle. I'm a sugar bowl.
free ride.
And welcome Stephanie Bunny Byrne to lead us through table topics this morning. In 1998, an article penned by physicist Mark Boslow, who was writing under the pseudonym April Holiday, suggested that the state of Alabama was redefining the value of pi to 3.0 instead of 3.14 to keep it closer to the biblical value. State legislators were swamped by angry colors beseeching them to leave pi alone. The strange ideas we will come up with. So our evaluators, I'm sure, are set and ready to do their written parts. As we now say, thank you. Yes. Thank you to Suzanna for stepping in at this last moment and giving us that great speech. That's what you call it.
There we go. That's the cold bump. So in conclusion, I'm so excited to work with the new hoarder that I just signed up with on Sunday. She's got the best heart, and I absolutely saw the beautiful side of her as I met her the first time. She's beginning therapy, and she's really ready to make a serious change. So I can't wait to start working with her. As I took a tour of the house on Sunday, I knew something was up when I first arrived. She was really nervous, and she met me out front. Now, I don't normally do the site visits, but for some reason I did, and I'm glad I did, because I could tell she needed this. She met me out in our front porch, and she apologized for the state of the outside of the house and wanted to say that she's very nervous that I was there. That's fine, everybody usually is. Whenever you first hire an organizer, it's a little scary. You're gonna show all your secrets. And she says, oh, well, come on in. So to open the door, she opens the door and has to move a huge box of clothes onto the pile next to the door so I could step in. So I step in, and now the walkway is blocked. So we shut the door and I have to climb over the box. And I'm in. And I knew this was going to be a big jump. The piles on either side were taller than I am. A lot of clothes and just things that she's collected throughout her life. Throughout the past 10 years, really. So as we weave our way through the walkway, gotta step over the toaster, duck under the hanging clothes to get into the kitchen. Okay. She only makes soup because she can only reach one bowl and her microwave. So, it's a good diet. She drinks a lot of soup. She was so worried though, and as she told me her story, for the past 10 years she's been collecting things because she lost almost all of her family within a couple-year period. They either passed away, became estranged, or were so busy fighting with each other that they no longer wanted to deal with anyone. And she was not even part of the fight. So her family was gone. She was living by herself. And she experienced so much loss that she could not take any more. So she kept things, because that's the one loss that she could control, not losing things. So she held them all. And she'd go shopping to bring in more. And she admits she's a serial shopper. She's got a problem with it. And she buys something, brings it home, and then feels guilty. That initial high doesn't last. So I got a really good insight into how she got that way. and how inspired she is to make this big change because her son visited her for the first time last week in 10 years. And he was scared for her health, and he said that he could not visit again, but he would support her health. So she wanted to make this change for him so that she could have him back in her life. She started therapy, and she's really excited about the future. So that was neat. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Let me tell you about the hoarder that I met on Sunday. Beautiful woman, gorgeous little beach house. Oh, she was so fun. She is going to be neat to work with, and let me tell you why. Thank you.
Start the clock to give us 1 minute, and everyone can fill out their informal evaluation forms for written feedback to Suzanna on her speech.
I just made that up, so let me know how I came across.
The whole card.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll talk longer next time.
This is important.
That was your body speaks.
My body speaks, yes. I really did meet with a hoarder on Sunday. Yeah, I had no idea she was a hoarder until I got there. But
It was actually not us, but she was polite. She was polite enough not to say that.
you should have seen the Toastmaster's room in her house. It was pretty.
Yeah. Sure. Well, here, you can use hers if you want. Or you can use mine. You were filling it out, right? Now filling hers out, yeah.
And now we get to listen to the impromptu speech being tossed from the hip from Suzanna. In 1996, America was outraged on April Fool's Day when Taco Bell took out a full-page ad in 6 major newspapers claiming it had purchased the Liberty Bell and was renaming it the Taco Liberty Bell. And thank you, Alexandra, for that wonderful speech.
Body language, right?
Yeah.
Okay. She wasn't ready to speak.
Thank
So
you.
that's why. I need this book now.
Okay, you go ahead. Yeah.
Find a penny. Pick it up. An old day you have. Pick it up.
Yeah.
Find a penny. Leave it lay, and you will live to ruin the day. Let me pick it up just in case. When my son found a penny in the parking lot, you know where's the parking lot here? So yeah, when he found a penny in the parking lot, he thought that he will have a wonderful lucky day. But finding a whole roll of cash, that's a different story. What do you do if you find money in the street? Really? Would you buy those amazing shoes that you saw at the store? What would you do? Perhaps maybe paying a few bills? No, Stephanie. About fixing the car.
Ah, yes.
No? But always that little voice in the back of your head telling you, no, that money doesn't grow in the street. That money belongs to someone, that person lost it, and that person wants that money back. Would you fight that the temptation, you want to keep it, but you want to do what is right? Well, 3 years ago, we were at the park. It was something like this. Soccer field down in South Florida, and it was like huge, like 10 times. Like over there, you see that land? It was something huge like that, and it has a path for bicycles and people running. So we went on a Sunday after church, and I was my husband, my son, my daughter, and myself. So we took our bikes, and my daughter wanted to learn how to ride the bike. So I was teaching her how to ride the bike. My husband went with my little son, 5 years old. Like, you see that side, like that line in the back? So it was really far away. So my husband was on the other side with my little son playing around. And then suddenly I heard my son running and yelling at me, "Mommy, Mommy!" And I didn't have my glasses, so I couldn't see. "Look what I found!" And he was running toward me. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm thinking to myself, what did he find? Maybe a pebble, pennies. He loved collecting pennies. And then he was coming toward me, and I would say, "Okay, what did you find, Lucas?" And when I opened his cute little hands, with heaviness in my heart, I saw this whole roll of cash. Enough that I'm thinking it could be a week of salary. Wow. Yep. Temptation, huh? So today I'm going to talk about the 3 things you could do if you find money in the street. The first one is, Jorge, could you please tell me what is the first one? You can't see.
Well, it's under a certain amount.
Under a certain amount.
It is under a certain amount. That's the first thing you need to figure it out. It is under a certain amount. Now, what is the amount? I don't know the amount. I mean, you figure it out what is the amount that is under, and it doesn't have anything personal attached. Hey, keep it. Seriously, I mean, just think about it. Are you going to go to the police station and get a form and get in line to report $5 lost? $1 lost in the street? No, so you keep it. Number 2, Bob, what is the number 2 top?
Look and see if there's anything personal attached to the cash.
Very good. Oh. See if the money is attached to a wallet or credit card or keys, or it has something personal, because really I lost stuff, like my purse with my credit cards inside and my car keys. That's a terrible feeling, don't you think, Suzanna? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you have something personal, try to look for that person, contact that person. And number 3, Julia.
I can't read what that says.
Ignore the money.
Ignore the temptation?
The money.
Ignore the money.
Ignore the money. You found money and you don't want to deal with decisions. Ignore it. I have friends who say my bag is worth more money than picking up a $100 bill. I'm not going to beg and pick that money. I'm going to ignore it. Good for them. Want to be that situation? You may wonder, what did I do? So I have this roll of cash, and my cute son opened his hand, and I see this week of salary. So what do we do? So this is what we did, honestly. We waited a couple of hours, and again, this was, you see that land in the back? It's huge, so we waited for a couple of hours to see somebody show up at this field park, and you see the body language. Somebody lost something, they come back, and they start kind of having that body language they look in. So we were waiting for that. A couple of hours, nobody show up, so what do we do with all this? Let's take car and find a paper. So we found a paper in the car, And we wrote on the paper. Okay, so we wrote on the paper something like this. If you lost something, give me a call. And we put it on the floor with a rock. I mean, we gotta go. I mean, what we're going to do with all this money? So I'm not going to say if you lost X amount of money because I'm going to get all these calls. So if somebody lost something, they will call me and I will say, what did you lose? And if they tell me the description, I will meet that person and give you the money back. So a week passed, we didn't hear anything. So what did we do? Well, honestly, we have dinner out with the family and the rest we gave it to the church. So this is what we did. In this money-driven society, it's really hard to make decisions when you find money in the street and when you find property in the street. And the good rule of thumb is, like I said before, you can see if it's under an amount, under a certain amount, or if it has something personal attached. You can follow those things, but at the end of the day, I would suggest just do what you feel is right in your heart, and just follow that. Just always remember, somebody's loss is your win, but vice versa, your win could be somebody's loss. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Our speaker, Alexandra, says when coins are found in parking lots, it means whoever found it will have good luck, but coming across a whole roll of cash, well, that's a different matter. Doing Project 6 from the Company Communication Manual, Vocal Variety, Money in the Street. Please welcome Alexandra Balda. Our timer will give us 1 minute so that we may all provide our written evaluations. On April 1st, 1976, BBC Radio 2 astronomer Sir Patrick Moore went onto the radio to tell how at 9:47 a.m. Pluto and Jupiter would align in such a way as to temporarily reduce Earth's gravity. Moore told listeners to jump at exactly that time to experience the once-in-a-lifetime effect. At 9:48, callers flooded the lines eager to describe how they had briefly floated. And thank you, Jody, for that great off-the-cuff spontaneous presentation.
And with eyes closed and tilted head, and that smile, and that internal laugh. I hope I can become as comfortable in uncomfortable and foolish and silly situations as my father-in-law was in his. And like him, do it with kindness. last Tuesday, I did not like the idea of this backwards meeting. I found myself just becoming very uncomfortable. What in the hell is this? Quite frankly, I had never heard of a backwards meeting. And as Stephen was presenting and thinking about or relaying what we would be doing, at one point I turned to Stephanie and I said, "Really?" And she turns to me and says, "Mm-hmm." Stephen goes on to explain other things about possibly being spontaneous and foregoing what you were planning to speak. And I turned to Stephanie again and I say, "Seriously?" And she turns to me and says, "Mm-hmm." And then Stephanie leans over to me and she says, whispers really, "You know, you can always just forgo what Stephen is telling you and do what you plan to present anyway." And I said, "Really?" And she says, "Mm-hmm." This gave me such freedom to break the rule. And I appreciate Stephanie's rebellious side of her and her mentoring of me in that moment. But I left that meeting thinking, why am I so uncomfortable? What is it about getting out of sync with what I'm accustomed to that creates this tension? And what is it that I can do to work on that will help me become less uncomfortable in foolish or silly situations? And so I thought, okay, I am going to forego the planned speech, even though Stephanie gave me the freedom to do it. But let me work on this issue that I have, this tension that I'm feeling. So I realize that I do like a sense of control and order as much as I can in certain situations, but that's not always the reality. That's not always the case. So this opportunity to work on myself, if you will. And I used as an example my father-in-law as a mental image to help me through this process. Years ago, when we were first married, my wife and I went over to his house, and he had been working in his garden. And he showed us around in it, and showed us the corn that he had planted and the rows. And over here there was a section. I said, "Well, tell us about that. What's here?" He said, "I don't know." So, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, a friend of ours gave us about 30 plants, and he didn't know what they were." And I said, "I'd take them," and I planted them. And he said, "I call them my mystery plants." And so as the season went on, these plants would grow, and we would go over and walk through his garden, and he said, "I don't know what they are." I didn't either. And as we walked through the garden, I got an inkling of an idea. And then the season continued to pass, and the plants were grown, but things had not quite formed. And I came home one day and told my wife, "Hey, I stopped at the store, and I bought some cucumbers and tomatoes and squash and some red and orange and yellow peppers, a watermelon too. Let's go tonight and put these vegetables, these fruits in the garden, and then follow up the next day with your dad and see what happens." So, in the cover of darkness, we do that, and we put all the items in there. We're driving back, and Kate says, "You know, I don't know. I'm a little fearful of my dad. I don't know if he quite has that sense of humor." So but we do it, and we come back the next day, and we knock on the door, and I say, "Ted, you have some beautiful things in your garden. Have you had anything out of there yet?" He said, "No, they're not ready yet." I said, "Really? We just came from there. You have some beautiful things there. When's the last time you've been out there?" "I guess it's been about a week." He said, "Well, let me go out and check." And so we follow him out, and he goes out, and I said, "These look like little peppers," and we had hung them by paper clips. And he goes over to the tomatoes, and they're hung by string. And my word, I just didn't see that.
Oh, you just want to.
And then look at the cucumber. I didn't see that either. And then he sees the watermelon. And down he goes. and he's under, and he's like this. My word. I can't feel where it's attached. And then Kate and I laugh. And with his head tilted, and with his eyes closed, and with that smile, and that internal laugh, I'm hoping that I can be like my father-in-law was in that situation, and to do it with kindness.
Beautiful.
Please welcome Jody Swing, giving only his first speech. Get to the point. And will our timer give us 1 minute so that everyone may provide any written feedback to Jody that you may have? His speech. Still the written. Give the written one.
I think you're finished.
You're talking about you have to do a real one also.
The written one. The written one.
Good. Good. You don't have to worry about you.
In 1957, another BBC April Fool's report touted the bumper harvests from Swiss spaghetti trees. The report ran for 3 minutes and led to several people asking how they could have a spaghetti tree of their own.
Right. What money tree?
And will our grammarian please explain what her role will be for the meeting this morning?
Thank you, Toastmaster Master. The fundamental role of the grammarian is to help members express themselves clearly and concisely. The grammarian has two basic responsibilities. First, to introduce the new word to the day, which is witticism, and the second is to comment on exceptional and improper use of the English language. After our meeting, at the end, I will give a report and let you know who used the word of the day and how we did. Thank you, Toastmaster Master.
Taking on the odd counter role for the first time in this wonderful choice of meetings, Mike, will you please explain what you'll be doing?
First of the odd counter is to note the words and sounds used as a crutch or a pregnant pause by anyone who speaks during the meeting. Words may be inappropriate, interjections, such as, and, will, but, so you know. Sometimes we may be, I'll also be listening for double clutches such as I, or this means. Thank you.
And our first timer to this morning, Diane, please explain what great fun you're going to be having today.
My last time is doing the very important function of assisting the Toastmaster and keeping the meeting off schedule. And I think that I will be able to do that because today it will be my pleasure to time all the fools and all their witticisms. I am here to get even with these dreaded red, yellow, and green cards that always tick me off my stage. So when I hold up the red card, you will have 3 minutes left of your speech. The yellow one, 1 minute, or 2 minutes. left of your speech. The yellow one, 1 minute, and the green means your speech is finished, kaput. I'm going to jump up and down with green card, just following protocol, so please try and be as long-winded as possible.
And for those of you who happen to miss out on Sunday, Lake Mary Toastmasters participating in the Area 41 contest, Julia came in second for table topics.
I have to admit, it was 2 out of 2.
I got very lucky, believe me, when I got first out for the International Speech Contest.
Point is, that was not luck. That was a very well prepared and well delivered
Presented
speech. It was no
Yes,
luck
and the
involved.
second place speech was just as much so.
No, yes, that's my humble opinion.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully you'll be all ready to come to the division contest on April 27th, Sunday, 1:30 at the Deltona Public Library.
What was, can you tell us what that was in your talk?
It was the same speech I gave
Oh,
here at
yes,
the
here,
Club.
okay.
Changed up a little bit, but the same speech. And with the April Fool's theme, I thought you'd like to hear a few of the pranks that have been pulled, beginning with the Madison Capital Times on 1933 April Fool's edition. They put a doctored photo of the Wisconsin State Capitol in ruins. The accompanying story claimed that the building was felled by a series of unusual explosions caused by hot gas produced by the verbose debates in the chambers. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, please silence all your electronics. Since 2 went off during my table topic at Area 42 last night. Members in your roles, pass your competent leadership manuals to someone else for an evaluation for this meeting. The mission of the club, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. I shall call this meeting of Lake Mary Toastmasters to order on time.
Yes, sir.